Philadelphia is truly the place to be this summer. So add the Match Room to your list. It's a limited time sports lounge experience at Four Seasons Hotel Philadelphia, open now through July 19th. Located on the 59th floor, the space has been designed for watching international soccer matches. There's elevated food and drink options, including dishes you can share, and the best views of the city. Plan your visit now. Make those reservations on fourseasons.com/Philadelphia/dining and experience the Match Room before it's gone.
Hi, I'm David Plotz. I'm the CEO of CityCast, a podcast network that includes this show you're listening to, and also 12 other CityCasts in 12 other cities. And each one knows their city as well as your local team knows yours. So isn't it time we connected them? Don't you want to know how they're tackling their bike lane problems and housing challenges and sidewalk dog poop crises? That's why I'm hosting a new podcast called Your City Could Be Better. Because it could be. Every week, I'll chat with a different host in our CityCast network about what their cities are doing right and wrong, the weird things they're trying, and the surprising successes, so that we can all learn how to make our cities a little bit better. Listen to Your City Could Be Better on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, it's the Tuesday News Roundup. Can a free July 4th concert keep you in Philly to celebrate the semi-quincentennial, America's 250th? Or will you escape the crowds this weekend? Plus, 2 city workers found a way to rack up thousands of dollars in an early retirement loophole. And why more housing is coming to transit station stops. It's Tuesday, June 30th. I'm Trenae Nuri, and here's what Philly's talking about. This is a huge week, not just for the city, but for the country. We're going to be celebrating the semi-quincentennial on Saturday, the big 250th we've been talking about forever, it seems like. And it got me thinking about how a lot of people are going to be outside, and fingers crossed that the weather holds up. People are going to be outside cooking out. And I thought, what is your go-to dish that you bring to a cookout?
I can start. Okay, so if I'm not hosting, if I'm not on the grill, I like to bring a fun salad because I feel like it's safe. Not everybody's going to bring a salad, and I love making, especially in the summer when it's hot, a watermelon feta mint type of salad, like something fun and citrusy is great. But if I'm on the grill, I'm always going to be barbecuing oysters. It's something no one thinks of. It's fun. It's sexy. Always a hit. And it doesn't ruin the rest of the meal. So if you still want a burger, you can have a couple oysters.
Totally. All right. I'm coming to your cookout, Abby. That's Abby Fritz, our senior producer here at CityCast Philly. Faye, what is that one dish that you are bringing to a cookout?
So I will say that this isn't like my one dish, but this year I am really leaning in to Caesar salad. I love Caesar salad. It is fresh. The romaine is like crunchy. It still has like that like bite that you desire, but then it has that like creamy, like cheesy dressing. It has
you add some like lemon squeezes in there?
Oh, 100%. You have
so
to. It's
good.
mandatory. If you make your own Caesar dressing, it's mandatory. Sometimes I'll even, if I'm feeling kind of spicy, I'll zest the lemon, do a little lemon zest in there.
Okay,
and then
a little bougie with it.
I know. It's a problem. And then a crouton. I know some people make their own croutons. I just buy them in the bag at Whole Foods. They're delicious and perfect. And the reason that I'm leaning into the Caesar salad is because I don't know if you guys know this, but the Caesar salad was invented on July 4th. By an Italian immigrant in Mexico. His name was Cesar Cardini, July 4th, 1924, which is when it was invented. So the Caesar salad is 102 years old this year, and I will be celebrating the Caesar salad this year. It's a perfect salad. I don't know why I would bring anything else to the cookout.
Okay, so there is more to celebrate now. Now celebrating the Caesar salad. Faye Hassan, nonprofit leader, board member of the urbanist group Fifth Square Advocacy. Faye, you and Abby are kind of bringing something sort of healthy, some of these healthy options to the cookout. I don't know. I can guarantee you, I am not going healthy. When I'm going to a cookout, I just want to like pig out on stuff that like I don't normally eat all the time. See, like when I think about this question, I'm like, I want to bring the wow factor. I want the cred like, oh my gosh, Trinae brought the, and it's going to be like the Philly Pretzel Factory nugget tray with the cheese dip and the mustard. That's a hit. It depends on like the stress level. Like if I'm like, okay, I just need to pick something up. It's going to be a hoagie tray. That is a hit. If I really, really love you, I'm going to make you my mac and cheese. I can't give you all my secrets. I like to keep something to my heart, but if you invite me to your cookout, I'm bringing the mac and cheese.
And now everybody will know if you really love them based on whether or not you bring mac and cheese.
Right? Okay, so like I said, lots of stuff is happening in our city. We've got FIFA World Cup games still happening, and we're going to have a big one on July 4th. And then we're having so many events, parades. And so I'm like, are you guys going to stay or escape Philly for the semi-quincentennial?
I'm staying. I'm actually having a cookout myself.
You are?
Yes.
Okay.
I just sent a text out. I was like, if anybody wants to come over to have hot dogs and we're going to grill wings. I love grilling wings. It's like, it's such a delight. And of course, we're going to have Caesar salad at this party. I was like, whoever wants to come by, come by. And now there's like a dozen to like 20 people coming over, which I wasn't really expecting. Gathering. I thought, so I was like, okay, I gotta load up on hot dogs. And
is going to be booze, no booze? What's
100%. There's going to be booze. I'm not confident. I don't have a drinks plan yet. But rest assured, I will have a drinks plan, and it will be fruity and delicious.
Got a couple days.
Abby, are you staying or escaping?
Guys, I hate crowds. I'm getting out of here. I also I know it's historical. I know it's once in a lifetime. All my family members were like, I can't believe you're leaving. But I'm just like, I'm really close to the Parkway and to Fairmount, and it's been crowded. And I need to get outside. I need to touch grass. Yeah. So I'm getting out of here. I'm going camping in Delaware. And I'm happy with my choice and I'm ready to argue for it. So.
Okay. Because I am still on the fence.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if I should stay or if I should escape for the historical moment, right? This is a once in a lifetime thing. How many centennials do we get to even see in our lifetime, right? It's big for the nation. It's big for our city's history. And then I love free stuff, right? So then we're having this big free concert, the One Philly Unity Concert for America. The fireworks show, it's going to last until 11:45. So it's going to be like a all-night situation. I don't have to plan too much, but I'm going to see Jill Scott later in July. So I'm like, I don't need to see Jill Scott for America's 250th. I've seen DJ Jazzy Jeff up at the Plateau for the Roots picnic. The Roots are going to be here. State Property, Meek Mill. I've seen all of these acts at the Roots picnic in the end of May.
Yeah.
Why do I have to see y'all again? I don't know. And then, like Abby said, the crowds, right? So the con to all this is the crowds. And I'm getting to that age where if I don't have a chair, if I don't have an ice cold drink in my hand, I'm going to be pissed. So then I'm like, okay, unpopular belief, fireworks are fireworks. If you've seen them once, you've seen them all. But unless there's some new firework technology, I've seen fireworks. I don't know. It's looking like I'm leaning towards escaping.
I'll add another thing to the escape list. The weather. It is not looking great. Right. It's going to be really hot and rainy, as of right now, at least, on Friday and Saturday. So...
So Faye, that cookout might be a cook-in.
It's fine. The grill is underneath an awning. I'm going to make it work. I'm going to make it work. I'm staying. I am not going to go anywhere on the 250th anniversary of this country in Philadelphia.
Faye, why should I stay?
If you want to come over and bring mac and cheese, I'm going to have hot dogs. I'm going to have wings. I'll have Caesar salad. And I will have a drink situation. I promise. If you would like to come over. I also just think The vibe in the city is so different this summer than it has been any other summer that I've lived here, which has been 11 years now. It's like normally the city gets really like sleepy and like cozy. People go down the shore. And now it is filled with people from every country, everywhere, who are just like taking pictures in front of City Hall. And yesterday I took my daughter to Dilworth Plaza to like run around in the splash pad. And it was so fun because there were just like a bunch of kids from, it felt like every corner of the city and maybe almost every corner of the world. And just the vibes are off the charts and I wouldn't miss it for the world.
I read in an Axios article that 700,000 people in the region are going to be traveling this weekend. And with everything going on with the World Cup, like you mentioned today, and the Fourth Festival, like it is going to be hard to get in and out of the city. So if you're already here, it's a lot easier to stick around. But if you are trying to get out, there are some times that are better or worse. So like generally, if you leave before noon to go somewhere, that's better. Anytime after that, it could get a little more congested. So for me, I'm trying to escape the weather. Where I'm going in Delaware, it's not meant to rain until Sunday. Fingers crossed it stays that way. I'm going to leave at like 7 a.m. on Friday and hope for the best that there's not too much traffic. But I do think traffic can be a big deterrent, especially if you're just going for like a day trip or something somewhere, if you don't have like I'm staying somewhere for the weekend situation.
I still have a couple of days to decide.
Yeah.
We've got more news after the break. As you begin to make your itinerary for summer, add Brooklyn Bowl to the list. Brooklyn Bowl is a perfect blend of live music, bowling, beer, and food. It's located in Fishtown next to the Fillmore. 24 bowling lanes, 2 bars, and a restaurant featuring food from the Blue Ribbon Restaurant Group. It's open Thursday through Saturday evenings with live shows and parties every week. Half-price bowling Thursdays, family bowl Saturdays, plus food and drink specials in the restaurant during Phillies games. Go to brooklynbowl.com/Philadelphia to purchase tickets to shows, make a restaurant reservation, or inquire about hosting your next private event on the Brooklyn Bowl lanes. Soccer has taken over Philly, and when the World Cup rolls out, the party doesn't stop because we have professional soccer right here. The Philadelphia Union returned to play to host rivals Red Bull New York on July 22nd. If you've never seen a match, now's your chance with the first match on us. If you have seen a game, enter today to win VIP tickets to watch Inter Miami take on the Philadelphia Union when Lionel Messi comes to town on August 18th. Register for both at philaunion.co/citycast. Okay, let's talk about something going down in City Hall. There is a program called DROP. It stands for Deferred Retirement Option Plan. And this essentially is a benefit for city workers. But 2 city workers have taken advantage of this particular benefit. City Council member Curtis Jones and his wife, City Representative and Director of the Office of Special Events, Giselle Jones, are looking at collecting up to $752,000 combined from this workers' benefit drop. And essentially, the loophole is you retire temporarily and then you get immediately hired like the very next day.
Right, exactly. So you can temporarily retire, quote unquote, and then be rehired back immediately. And that's exactly what Giselle Jones did. She retired, had 1 day of retirement, and then was rehired to the exact same position. And Councilmember Curtis Jones, he's going to be eligible to get $432,000 from DROP in August of 2028. But he says he plans to run for a 6th term. So the loophole here is he could retire collect his payout, and do a similar thing that his wife did, retire for a day, and then resume his post as an elected official. So that is how they are getting around the retirement aspect of this early retirement plan.
Now, Councilmember Curtis Jones, he's been representing the 4th District for like 18 years. He makes about $165,000 annually. And his wife, Giselle, she makes about $199,000 annually. The Enquirer reports that this drop benefit dates all the way back to former Mayor Ed Rendell's administration. And it was looked to at the time to help the city predict when retirements were going to come. This would hopefully kind of incentivize like high earning employees to retire early. And the program, though, cost the city a lot more than they had expected.
Yeah. And like how they originally pitched it as being meant to work was like 4 years before you want to retire as an employee of the city, you'd tell the city, and then they'd take what they would have been paying for your pension in those 4 years and they'd put it in a big pot. And so then when you do retire after those 4 years, they give you that pot of money that they've been setting aside, and then you start getting your pension as well. And it basically would make high earning employees or other employees give this 4-year at max notice of when they're going to vacate the position. They can find a adequate replacement for people who have been in the city for years, or maybe someone who's been sticking around a long time. This gives them a little chunk of change to think about if it's about time for them to retire. But, you know, the money for the pension comes partially from workers' salary, but it doesn't cover all of it. So taxpayer dollars are going towards this big pot, you know, and that's when the city realized eventually, even though it was originally pitched as a program that's meant to be like fiscally responsible, it ended up costing taxpayers a lot more than was anticipated. Like there used to be programs like this across the country, and many have gotten rid of it. Right. Because it just didn't pan out the way they expected.
Now, the irony is that Councilmember Jones first voted to enact a law banning future elected officials from accessing drop. So essentially, he was, quote unquote, like grandfathered into this. So he was able to benefit. In this Enquirer article, he justified enrollment in drop because times have changed since that 2010 vote that he made, and that he needs financial support, it seems like, to help with his vision. He said he's lost like 40% of his vision. So he's had like a lot of surgeries.
Yes. Yeah. He has glaucoma is what he mentioned in the article, which I am, incredibly sorry that he's quite sick. I think what's making people feel some kind of way about this, though, is that like the spirit of drop is that you receive the benefit when you retire, right? It is a retirement benefit for when you retire. So I think what is making people and myself honestly feel this kind of way is that it honestly feels like the taxpayer is being fleeced in a way that feels extremely unusual. There is history of elected officials who have opted not to enroll in drop, specifically to maintain sort of the integrity of the rule, which is, for example, former Council President Darrell Clark, when he retired, he was not enrolled in drop. And so he did not receive a big lump sum benefit in that way.
What's also interesting, too, is that Mayor Sherelle Parker defended her decision to grant Giselle Jones to return back to work. Parker sees drop as a recruitment and retention tool because she says that, you don't get paid a lot in a government job compared to if you get one in like the private sector. And so she said because the government doesn't pay as much, drop could be seen as a way to entice and hire employees.
And I do largely agree with that position for most municipal workers, right? Like the primary municipal worker, it's true, they're not making that much money. It's a really valuable sort of retirement plan for folks. When you get a big lump sum, you can pay off your house or kind of whatever big cost that you have. And then you're able to sort of like use your pension to sort of pay for your lifestyle. I think this case doesn't really hold for somebody like Councilmember Curtis Jones and Giselle Jones, because she's making $199,000 annually, which is more than 3 times the average income in the city of Philadelphia, right? I was like, she doesn't really need this benefit. Again, it is an earned benefit and she is entitled to earn it. And there is one simple trick to do that, which is to retire.
Yeah.
And yet Giselle is attached to really help organizing these major events that Philly is hosting, right? She's helped with the Pope's visit in 2015. She's helped with DNC back in 2016, the NFL draft in 2017, and the Eagles 2 Super Bowl wins. Yeah, so
Go Birds.
It's not light work.
Definitely not. If this was like a surprise, if we realized we were going to have all these huge celebrations, it would make more sense, because maybe 4 years ago she was like, okay, I'm going to retire and I'm going to be done. But I don't think the 250th anniversary of the nation snuck up on anyone in Philadelphia.
And the World Cup, because you have to make that bid in years in advance.
So for me, it's I think anybody within the department who is going to be organizing these events could have identified this a couple years ago and been like, oh my God, please don't, just one more year, put in the 4 years notice in a year, right? Instead of 4 years ago, and then doing this whole retirement thing.
Yeah, and in the Inquirer article, Lauren Cristella,
president of Committee of 70, which is a government watchdog group.
Lauren Cristella was quoted in the Inquirer saying that it's extremely fiscally irresponsible. It's not a great use of taxpayer dollars for the city to essentially grant an exception for Giselle Jones to bring her back on, particularly because there is another extremely well-paid, extremely talented staff member who is also taking care of these events. Michael Numis, right?
Yes, 2026 director Michael Numis, who has a salary of $175,000 annually.
And so there are redundancies in this government and in that department that we should be talking about. I think it's a really valuable conversation to have, to say, why do we need 2 extremely well-paid people to do these events when Giselle has largely been doing that job on her own for a significant period of time, right? So it's why do we have another person to do that? Returning back to Councilmember Curtis Jones, and he's saying I'm very sick, I've lost my vision. I think that's absolutely a very valuable case to make, to be this is why I need this drop funding.
Right, because not all city employees get dropped. You've got to be eligible for this benefit.
I would also argue that more municipal workers should be eligible for that. There are municipal workers who are sick, who experience illness. I hate to say it this way, but he's not the only person who works at the city who's sick. And to me, it sounds like right now what he's saying is I should be eligible for this because I'm sick, without thinking about sort of everyone who works for the city in a broader scope.
Right. And that's something I did not hear them say.
No, absolutely not. For me, what I read in that piece was me. It's mine. It's my benefit. And I do understand that. To me, it's again, you can just retire and you can receive that benefit. You don't need to come back in your capacity to work. I think another thing is also that he is an elected official. So there's no real retirement for elected officials, because it's not like he's being replaced by a manager, right? He is elected by the voters.
So he has to make that decision if he wants to run again. We've got more news after the break. Listen, if you're like me and you want to save some cash, check out Arbor. Arbor helps you pay less on your electric bill at no cost. You might not realize the supply part of your Pico bill, the actual electricity, is the part you can change. It's also where rates have been climbing. Arbor is independent. They work for you, not the utility. They secure a better rate plan from vetted suppliers. You keep Pico as your utility, and only your supply changes. There's no cost, no fees. You can cancel anytime. The suppliers pay Arbor, never you. And there's more than 1,300 Philadelphia households who are already using Arbor. So go to joinarbor.com/citycast and sign up. It only takes about 2 minutes. There's a new law to get more people living near public transportation and hopefully boosting ridership on SEPTA.
Yeah, so council voted last week to pass a bill that expanded an already existing law, by the way, and it incentivizes developers to build housing around public transit. They want people to use public transit more, so they want more housing around it, so that likely, 1 + 1 = 2, more people will then use it.
Right, and this is not like single family homes. They're looking to build like high-rise apartments.
Yeah, exactly. It applies to most homes that are not single-family homes. So they want big properties, high rises with lots of people in it, and it bans development of one-story buildings, parking garages, and curb cuts. And so this incentive that this bill is building off of, it used to be that these developers who are building houses that are bigger than single-family homes, if you build within a 500-foot radius of SEPTA transit areas, you would be able to get an incentive to do that. Now they've expanded that radius to 1/4 mile, and they're also including Patco, water taxis, some bus or trolley stations on top of SEPTA stations. So they really want people to build close to transit.
And this brings me to the catch. The catch is that city council members decide which stations are going to opt in. This is not like a citywide thing. And so that then says, okay, ding, 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 councilmanic prerogative, which is like this unofficial method of district council members getting to decide what development gets developed, gets added into their district.
And with other programs like this across the country, like these types of incentive laws, that is not usually the case. Usually it just opts in every single station that would fall under this law. So this is unique to Philly that our council members are going to be able to have this type of discernment.
It is really important to also note, I will say that like on many of the Broad Street line stations, particularly are like incredibly well used, like there's tons of people that do it. They run across multiple councilmanic districts, right? So on the west side of Broad Street is Council President Kenyatta Johnson's district, at least down where I am. And then on the other side is Mark Squilla's district. So it also does require not only councilmanic prerogative, but a lot of collaboration between our elected officials. I will also say that as a board member of Faith Square Advocacy, my organization, myself included, did engage in a ton of advocacy around this. And honestly, we're deeply pleased with the results. I did meet with the team at Council President Kenyatta Johnson's office, including his chief of staff and a number of folks that work for city council in general in planning. And folks are generally super excited about it. I will say when I went to the meeting, I was surprised. It seemed like how little they knew about it. And then later on, Council President Kenyatta Johnson did say that he was going to take a look at the bill and opt some of the stations in, but of course would have to work with Councilmember Mark Squilla in order to do that.
Isn't Council President also looking and making sure that this housing is affordable as well?
Yeah.
Because that's the big thing. Like, I'm always curious, when a new development comes up, who is it made for?
Yeah. I definitely certainly have like my opinions on who this is made for. I think I would just like to start by saying that we are in a massive housing shortage nationwide and here in the city of Philadelphia. Largely what happens is that when you see like a huge brand new apartment building, anywhere from 30 to like 100+ units, what really happens is that there are folks that are living in maybe a smaller, less affordable building that can now move in to that building because they are able to afford that unit. And then that frees up the more affordable unit for somebody else who might need it. I do also think that like just offering opportunities for different types of housing around transit feels really important. So like studio apartments, 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms. A 3-bedroom apartment is a home for a family. And it is really important, I think, for us to know that like it's so important for people to be able to like stay in the same communities where they go to school, where they work, where they have friends and family, and just building as much housing as we possibly can and making sure that a considerable amount of it is affordable and made for Philadelphians, especially for working class and middle class Philadelphians, is such a critical aspect of it. So I'm definitely super excited to see what happens in the fall. I believe the mayor has already signed this suite of bills. So city council passed it, the mayor has already signed it. And then I think in the fall, we're going to see which stations they opt in.
But it's interesting though, because I totally hear how like these like transit oriented communities are, in theory, on paper, it sounds great. It sounds great. But the reality is that like in the coming years, 17 public schools are going to be closing. That is going to shift the dynamics of where our children are going to school, right? And like what's going to happen in the next 5 to 10 years? We just saw within the last 5 to 10 years, we had a pandemic that literally upended how we think of work. I hear the sort of the talking points and like how it sounds great, but I do wonder about like the shifting dynamics that are going to be unfolding in the next just 5 years, let's just say, that could change all of this.
Yeah, absolutely. I do recognize that like a lot of this sounds great in theory. Of course, there are, practiced versions of this in other cities. And even in Philadelphia, we already do have a transit oriented communities bill kind of on the books, right? So the new suite of bills, which are 3 bills, just sort of offer like an expansion on kind of what already exists, right? And so I think that it's important to remember that like we already do have transit oriented communities in our city already. And what we're just trying to do is create more opportunities for people to live in the communities that they want. And I feel like that starts with building all sorts of housing around transit stops that people use. I will also say that this will also help alleviate, I think in the last year, we've seen sort of the challenges with SEPTA funding as well, right? And the state is not funding SEPTA in the way that they should. And so building more housing around transit almost guarantees a ridership number, right? So like this station will, you build 100 units and 50% of those people take SEPTA. That's more than before where there were no units there, right? So also help building a sustainable system for our transit system is a big portion of why the transit-oriented communities bill, in my opinion, is really important.
So in theory, basically more people, that means more riders, more money coming into the SEPTA fold.
Exactly.
But there is nothing written in these bills about affordability, correct? Like this incentive is for any type of developer, right? So it would at that point then go back to the council members to approve the housing that gets built within their district, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. There is no mandate on affordability right now. What really matters is like whoever the developer is. And there are a number of developers in our city that are committed to building affordable housing. They receive federal tax credits and state tax credits in order to do that. But no, there's nothing written in about affordability directly in these bills, largely because it really is sort of up to what kind of housing people want to build, right?
Interesting. We already know some of the neighborhoods that have been opted into this program, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there's 13 stations on the Market Frankford line, a number of them in West Philly, which is in the 3rd Councilmanic District. That's Councilmember Jamie Gauthier. There's no stops currently on the Broad Street line, but that's not to say that there won't be. And I think Council President Johnson's statements that he's made about wanting to work with Councilmember Squilla are promising to include at least some stops on the Broad Street line.
Broad Street also includes the north of City Hall, which would be Council Member Jeffrey Young's district. Mm-hmm. And I think he's still kind of assessing which stations make the most sense in this particular situation. I'm still trying to figure this out. Why not have a citywide expansion of this particular program? And why not include like affordability protections. I just feel uneasy, honestly, by these sorts of things.
Yeah, absolutely. I think to answer your first question, my thought is like, why not have this across the city? Why do we have to wait for our council members to opt in? I think this is, kind of where a big part of like my advocacy and my passions lie, is like making sure that like every neighborhood has access to sort of like the amenities and the high quality housing that every other neighborhood does, right? So like, why does West Philly get transit oriented communities and North Philly does not, right? And so I do think that there is a case to be made to say that like actually councilmanic prerogative on this issue in particular is going to lead to a very uneven sort of economic development in our city. When you are building tons of affordable housing in South Philly, you're building tons of affordable housing in West Philly, and you're not really building very much in North Philly because the incentive is not there, right? That station is not opted in.
And our high-rise apartments, actually the housing that Philadelphians want. I'll say this for myself. I used to live in a high-rise apartment.
Yeah.
I got tired of it. I lived there for about 4 years. My kids grew up. They need their space. Everyone needs their own room. I was looking for 3-bedroom homes, not in an apartment, and I got a row home.
Yeah, I feel like that's a great question, Trinae. And honestly, I don't know the answer to that question. I think the market is telling us sort of that like that is the kind of housing that people want, right? People do live in those apartments, and developers are continuing to build those apartments, affordable apartments and market rate apartments as well. And I don't think that developers would make an investment like that lightly without knowing if that's the kind of housing that people desire.
I think Squilla also said that he's looking to get community input in all of this. I think he opted in Spring Garden. But yeah, like to your point, it is interesting to see which districts, which neighborhoods get this sort of housing, and is it affordable? That remains to be seen.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that it is also this is just like such an interesting way to sort of approach development in our city, as well as creating opportunities for our transit system to sustain itself in face of like deeply unprecedented financial challenges. So I'd be curious to see where it goes. So the bills, I believe, have already been passed. The mayor has signed them. And so what's up next is sort of like the next stage of it is like the council people sort of deciding which stations in their districts will be opted in. And then, of course, the community input side of it as well, which is where RCOs, which are registered community organizations in neighborhoods, will be able to vocalize their opposition, support, or neither, just maybe asking questions of their elected representatives.
What this sounds like to me is basically like it's progress. And yet critics might say that, it's important to have councilmanic prerogative to be an extra layer of voice for community members who are living there now, and a voice that pushes back on possible displacement and possible gentrification. Because I think that is also like the big kind of like elephant in the room, so to speak, of like when these types of like new development gets talked about in communities where, yes, the point is boosting housing, boosting ridership for SEPTA, but also it could displace folks. That's why some would say councilmanic prerogative is important, because district council members have a say, use community input into determining what gets developed in their districts.
Yeah, I think what I would say to that is that what happens in this case then is that like some districts get all the amenities because they have a council member who's like, oh yeah, we should have a brand new pool. We should build a ton of affordable housing. And then other communities don't. And in fact, I believe that might be more of a driving factor of gentrification, where some neighborhoods have it all and other neighborhoods have very little, right?
Right.
And
like apartments that have like a little doggy like square, or places to like put your bike.
yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah.
Or a gym, right? An apartment apartment that has
Oh
a
my
gym,
gosh, I would
or God
love
forbid,
a gym again.
a pool, right? Like,
A
you know,
pool, yes.
there are things that I think like we could absolutely talk about. I feel like gentrification is such a big conversation, right? But I
Yeah.
think for me, like the easiest way to sort of slow the force of gentrification down is to put great amenities in every neighborhood in our city.
Right. And so if I had a magic wand, I would say put this all over
Yeah.
the entire city and not like these like bit by bit, like station by station type of things.
Yeah. I think also like this is a great opportunity to encourage people to engage in their own sort of advocacy, right? If you feel passionately about this issue, you live in Jay Young's district, I mean, honestly, this could go not just on the subway lines or whatever, but it can go to like high frequency bus stops as well, right? So really being certain that like if you feel passionately about this and you really want affordable housing in your district, this is the time to like go to your council member and make the case.
All right. Faye, Abby, thank you so much for joining me on this week's Tuesday News Roundup.
Thanks for having me, Trinae.
Thank you.
That's a wrap for our Tuesday News Roundup. If you enjoyed this episode, send me a text or leave me a voice memo at 215-259-8170. If you plan to stay in the city this weekend to celebrate the 250th, or you're going down to the shore, or maybe camping like Abby. Share this episode with a friend, rate the show, leave us a review, and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to sign up for our morning newsletter to learn more about what else Philly's talking about. And don't forget, you can support the show and get great perks by becoming a CityCast Philly neighbor at membership.citycast.fm. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Bye.